Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
Let's get into Barabar. It is a documentary that came out a couple of weeks ago, narrated by Johanna James. She does a great job.
It's originally a French documentary from a documentary team that is investigating the Barabar Caves, and she's translating it on her channel. She's distributing it.
It's kind of weird because almost the exact same documentary, but there's a couple of different narrations, is on Uncharted X.
Probably had a couple of translators just to do it, to get it out there as much as possible.
You could hear her passion for these subjects when she talks about this stuff. These caves are incredible. I don't even want to call them caves because
it's really not the right term.
It's a disservice. They really are. It's called the Barabar Caves, but these things are not caves in the sense of what you think of what a cave is. Does that look like a cave to anyone?
That looks like the entrance to a spaceship.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's not
like. A cave. That's like calling the pyramids a cave.
I said it earlier. It does feel like something was teleported into that location and then teleported out, and like it left that
like the Terminator. Terminator bubble.
Exactly like the Terminator bubble. Like you have that void left over after. It's just like so precise and perfect. Not that I'm saying that's what's happening, but like so perfectly done.
Who here watched Land of the Lost? The Land of the Lost, where they're in a raft and they go over a waterfall and they end up in the Land of the Lost with dinosaurs and sleet stacks. Sleet stacks are lizard people, and they lived in megalithic structures. First time I saw megalithic structures was in Land of the Lost. And I like, this looks like a sleet stack structure. And they used to be super intelligent. This is insane. So this is in India. These were dug out somehow.
There's 6 of them in the geological structure of the granite. It's like a single granite
vein.
One huge piece.
Also a 7th that's like detached in its own area. They built
it's further away,
building around it.
And there could be more that we don't know about.
Oh, absolutely.
The other thing that we were talking to Hugh about briefly was just how insanely old India and its culture is, to the point where it doesn't actually fit into the Western view. These things are insanely perfect. This is absolutely next level with the polishing. It's reflective in there. And we get a lot more than we did from that last documentary, because they start getting into sound resonance and exact measurements.
There's scoop marks on the right here.
Oh, I saw it. Right there. So
where have you seen those? The unfinished obelisk.
Baalbek.
In Aswan.
We've seen them in Baalbek too.
Anyway.
Well, they were just getting warmed up. That's how they were doing it.
You could see the entire whale. This is the giant marble. So that's the whale.
Okay, yeah, that's the whale.
That's what it's called.
And these are the 2 unfinished caves, because both of these, they have chisel marks on the outside, and none of the other ones have chisel marks on the outside.
Is it one of those? Some of the walls are done. And
that's
then
both of these.
Half of them are done.
Yeah, I have a theory on that, but
these are some of those exterior chisel marks that they were talking about.
I honestly do think they were probably just prepping their tools, making sure it's the sharpness that they needed.
You don't find them at any of the other, just these 2.
Why wouldn't we have seen those chisel marks or the sharpening marks at the finished places?
They were trying to mimic the rooms.
Other ones.
The other ones, which is why the walls on one of the caves, just the walls is done, whereas the other one, the ceiling isn't done. According to the Masons, it is logically better for them to chisel kind of the structure out and then polish, but then they just started doing, and they're like, F this is too difficult, and then gave up.
Here's that one that's half finished. So it's the walls are polished and finished. The floor is not, and the ceiling is not. Masons, they went through these unfinished ones and said the order of operation doesn't make sense on how you would execute the other. Seems like it's a different group of stonemasons trying to copy it possibly, or practicing. Like that's another answer. Like, are they, because they don't know if this was before or after.
I think it was after.
Practicing with this one?
That's a good point though.
Because
it could be practicing. Go ahead.
Another reason is the placement of the door. All the doors have been mathematically aligned to the circles or something of the ratios.
Yeah, right there. This guy, Eric Bernard, he's talking about how the door doesn't make any sense. It is very inaccurate. It's not symmetrical at all. It just like, it doesn't match. This door feels like it came much later. But let's be real. I mean, Khufu slapped his name. Now they call it the Khufu Pyramid, but it's like, bro, that was there long before Khufu.
So that's how they date these. They say they're attributed to a certain Indian king. Was it Ashoka? The inscriptions say that this king gave these caves to rainy seasons and beggars.
Yeah, beggars.
Because of the rain.
Right, homeless.
But it doesn't say he constructed them. Nobody knows when they were constructed. This is the earliest they have.
So the trapezoidal doors.
100%.
Okay, so we've seen shapes like this for doorways everywhere. Every country where there's megaliths. That has to come from somewhere. And we also see with the big megalithic structures is no adornment.
And that's what's different about this one. Like
So
this
this
guy's
one-
adornment.
I think was done later. That inner arc of the door, they could just carve around that. Why in the fuck would you have a little inlet to your doorway? If you're going to tell me these were made for beggars, for rain shelters, otherwise, why would you do that? That's really fucking hard unless it was easy.
The older ones that we're discussing here are perfectly symmetrical. And when I say perfectly symmetrical, you can cut the one on the right in half in either one and flip it and turn it around and they all perfectly match. The one on the left, you could split it right down the center and that sphere is actually a sphere. Like they actually calculated it. And if you were to take a sphere that's that size, it would match perfectly into that corner. Gopika right here on the right. This the pill-shaped one, that one's also perfectly symmetrical. So if you were to split that right down the center in either direction, right, horizontally, or either left, right, or north, south, it would flip perfectly to the other side.
And the stonemasons,
you can't do that with chisels. You're not doing that with chisels.
Just go in there and start chisel stuff out and do all this. You have to pre-plan exactly what the dimensions of the space that you're trying to excavate, so you can make this room. You can't just start going at it and being like, okay, well, now let's figure out where. Like, no, you have to do that way in advance. Geometry
and the slightest nick too far,
negative,
and
space.
you've thrown the entire thing out. You ruin the entire project.
And that's what they find in the unfinished. The two unfinished caves there's negative spaces where the carvers have chiseled too much.
Gone too far.
I agree with Xray, by the way. I think that was them trying to replicate this incredible precision. Imagine being the farmer or the hunter or the whatever that found them and then brought the attention to Ahsoka and like, look at this. Look what I found. And they're like, whoa, like this is incredible. Like, what is it for? What's the reason? The inscriptions are carved out in the front. It says the respectable Ajivikas as a residence for the rainy season as long as moon and sun will last.
We've seen in Egypt, there's a lot of evidence in there that some of those are scratched on way later as graffiti. Like this is some other king came in, said, hey, we like these things. These are pretty cool. We could give them to somebody. Let's make it look like we did it. There you go. This room in particular, the walls are all slanted. All of the caves are slightly tilted
an 88 degree.
And then you have the curved top, which is a cylinder with two spheres on each side.
Yep.
And when they go into the sound aspect of it is insane.
Oh, man.
The way it bounces in.
Can we hear it? Can we play that?
That was outside.
Just raw. Outside.
So that was outside raw. Here's inside. You know,
it's still going. It's still going.
I wish she would have let that go another beat or two before,
until it ended.
Over. The resonance on that is it goes forever.
I got chills listening to it the first time because it does something to you.
So
I think that's the point of these caves.
They have the English speaking guy. What he talks about later on is there's no way you can have a conversation in these structures, whatever they are. You can't. They're not for meeting and having a little chit chat because you wouldn't. It would drive you mad. You wouldn't be able to understand anybody. It'd be like being at the worst club in the world because
even one person speaking. They tested that too. Even one person speaking, if it was 15 feet away or something, 15 to 20 feet away, it's inaudible. You can't hear what they're saying because it's so bounced back and forth. It sounds like it's a crowd. There's got to be something connected inherently to that. Maybe there was music because that's the only thing you could get through all of this echoing is some kind of music.
It has to definitely do with the sound. and it's either healing or it has to do with religion.
But there's
'Cause-
nothing adorning the walls. You know, usually in a religious scenario, you see carvings.
Because if there's
you see
things
paintings,
adorning
you
the
see-
walls, the reverberation doesn't occur. So you need the walls very bare, minimalist, in order to have the sound bounce back and forth.
Right.
We see it all the time. People chant, humming.
Yeah, I don't think this is just some Gregorian chanting. Forgive me though. If it's that, it's a kind of a chanting that actually fucking works. Like there's some kind of meditation value where you actually go somewhere else. I don't think you put that much engineering and work into like a really groovy sounding place to chant.
I 100% am with the whole healing narrative. There's something to healing and frequencies and understanding vibrations of the universe. And I think that that's what these are. I think these are someone's private chambers, his own private spot, going and get healed. And maybe, you know, at a certain frequency, like it's like the adrenochrome of the freaking ancient, you know, like the ancient Indian rulers.
Maybe it was like a cult of Atlantis, like some leftover Atlantean, whatever their religion or shamanism or whatever it is. Yeah. And they want it hidden from whatever regime was there too.